And now on the line is Michelle Murphy from Social Justice Ireland. Michelle, welcome back to Near FM.
Thank you very much, Darren.
Michelle, I've done a few interviews with you over the last few years talking about what is in your annual Sustainable Progress Index. As it has been a year since our last interview on your index this time last year, could you start off by giving our listeners today on Near FM, Michelle, for those who don't know, a bit of a reminder, please, about what your annual Sustainable Progress Index published every year is all about?
Yes, of course, Darren. So the index, the Sustainable Progress Index, it looks at the 17 global goals, so the UN global goals for sustainable development, the 17 of those, and it measures Ireland's progress across all of the 17, and then it ranks us against 13 other EU countries. So I suppose our EU peers, the EU 14, I suppose the more developed and established European Union countries. So that's the global goals themselves. They range from zero poverty, zero hunger, to gender equality, to climate action, to life on land, life underwater, reduced inequality, quality education. So they run a whole gamut. And what we do is we look at all 17 of those, and we use 82 different indicators actually to look at them, and then we rank Ireland's performance on each one, and then we rank Ireland in comparison to the other 13 EU member states that I mentioned.
Okay, I've been covering the whole Sustainable Development Goals process on community radio 10 years now, since 2013, a couple of years before the SDGs were actually launched. Do you find, Michelle, that the SDGs are taken seriously in Ireland?
Yes, I think they're beginning. I mean, they are taken seriously. I suppose the question is whether a lot of people really know what they are. You know, whether they're promoted and they get out into the public consciousness. So certainly, I mean, government does have an SDG, a national implementation plan, and they're, I suppose they would be more conscious of where we are in terms of meeting the goals. But still, I certainly think there could be more progress in terms of, you know, that filtering down even to county council level, and so that, you know, everybody, all politicians and everyone knows what the goals are, and, you know, what Ireland wants to achieve on all of the goals as well.
I know that some organisations and individuals in Ireland take them seriously. Can you give me a bit of a summary, Michelle, about what your Sustainable Progress Index results for this year, say, in comparison to your results over the last few years?
Well, I suppose we come 8 out of 14 countries this year overall. When you look at the economy index, so that's things relating to, I suppose, pay, economic development, research and development, we come 9th out of 14 countries. Now, we don't score very well in terms of logistics and broadband capacities, and so that kind of brings us down there. On the social index, we're in the middle, so we come in 6th place. So we do very well in terms of education and the SDG on quality education. We do well on peace and justice and health and well-being, but we don't score so highly on the goals relating to poverty and inequality, and actually gender inequality. And then the third element of the index then is the environmental index. We score 9 here again. And although we have kind of improved in some areas, especially SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, we still don't perform that well on responsible production and consumption, affordable and clean energy in particular, and climate change and climate action. That's bringing down our score there as well.
Okay, I know you were on the Downey Tarrant programme on Monday, Michelle, Northside today, talking about the then upcoming government's cost of living package that was published on Tuesday. Thanks for coming on Air FM twice in the 1 week. Can you tell me, Michelle, post-publication of that package, if you and Social Justice Ireland were happy with what the government announced on Tuesday?
Well, I suppose we welcome any support, but, we weren't ultimately we weren't happy because yet again it was one-off measures, and one-off measures doesn't solve the income challenges that low-income households have. And we've been consistently looking for an increase in core social welfare rates of €8. So government didn't deliver on that, and while the lump sum top-ups are welcome, they're just one-off, and people will still be back in the same situation as they find themselves in today. So ultimately, the money we think could have been used better and targeted better, and we really feel the core welfare rate should have been increased.
Okay. I have heard that the government have since 2020 a child poverty and well-being unit. Can you tell me, Michelle, more about this unit and whether you are happy with what, if anything, the unit has achieved since 2020?
Well, I suppose the unit it's been set up in the department of the Taoiseach, and Taoiseach Leo Varadkar, I suppose, announced it when he became Taoiseach for the second time there. To date, we haven't really seen what I suppose the work of the unit is going to be. What we would really like to see from it is, I suppose, an audit of all child poverty initiatives, because we have never managed to meet any of our child poverty targets that we've set ourselves. So we would be looking to, see an audit of those to see what is or isn't working, and then that the unit itself is there to promote the child poverty target, and that we actually meet the target, and that means supporting children and the families in which they live through income supports and other services. That's what we'd really like to see. I'm not sure if that is what we're going to see from the unit, but I think that's what would be most useful. If you're going to set up a child poverty and well-being unit, well then ultimately the goal of that unit should be to reduce child poverty.
Yeah, I saw the Taoiseach saying that, I think it was on Tuesday, in response to a question by, I think it was Roisin Shorehart. He was saying that the unit has achieved a lot. He didn't name, I think, anything that it has achieved, but according to himself anyway, they have achieved a lot. So it'll be interesting to see when the unit is audited, whenever that happens. It'd be interesting to see who's making the most sense. Okay, Michelle, the issues of poverty, social justice in general, and the UN SDGs are all in the one kind of category in your view in Social Justice Ireland, are they?
Yes. And I mean, for us, the SDGs are, a way for us to measure progress, but also to improve the well-being of everyone in Ireland. And globally, they're supposed to be a blueprint for global progress. That's why they were there. So the whole issue of social justice, poverty and inequality, and I suppose social progress and environmental progress and economic progress, they're all intertwined. And I suppose that's the value of the SDGs, Darren, is that they provide that framework and that lens to look at these issues. So we look at everything together, and I suppose what we would say is, while we are making progress in some areas, we still have much to do in other areas, particularly some of the environmental areas that I mentioned, and also in relation to inequality generally, poverty, hunger, and those kinds of issues. So what we hope that this report will do is that it, highlights to government that particular areas that they really need to be looking at making progress on in the coming year.